Hello, welcome to WFUZ-TV's The People's Voice podcast. I'm Blair Castro, here with Thomas Jenkins, and we have Tracey Gambill in the studio with us today. She's running for Baldwin County Commission, District 4. Tracey, thank you so much for being here with us.
Well, thank you for having me. I appreciate it very much.
So your race has 3 candidates in it currently, and it's going to be an open seat. Commissioner Gruber has retired, so there will be a new commissioner in that seat, which is exciting.
Yeah.
What motivated you to run for this office at this point in time? Why did you feel called to do this right now?
Well, because 4 years ago almost, we had a large development try to come into our area in Lillian, Alabama, where we live. And we decided to fight it because it wasn't in an appropriate location. It was on Highway 98 and it was going to be high density. So we decided to go before the Planning Commission and then again before the County Commission, and we defeated that development. And that was so encouraging that we could really make a difference in things that are happening in this county. So it was rewarding. We were very proud of it. And then one thing came along and then another, and I decided to just keep fighting for the rural character of our area. So over the 4 years, I've been to almost all of the county commission meetings and the planning and zoning meetings, fighting for keeping our area rural. And I've had many, many successes doing that. And it's been a great experience. I've learned so much about planning and zoning, which is really the beating heart of housing development, that I decided to branch out and advocate for other areas as well. When our current commissioner turned down about 4 different proposals that I had for improving the system, is when I decided it was my turn to go ahead and see if I can't get in there and make a real change.
So you mentioned your numerous successes in this. I am referring specifically to one recently that you posted online that got, thousands of views actually, which I thought was pretty cool. Can you talk a little bit about that specific one that happened most recently?
I can. That was March 17th, and that was the county commission itself is now doing rezonings, no longer the planning and zoning commission. So I researched that, and I held a town hall regarding the matter and got quite a number of signatures in opposition to that development. It was on County Road 12 near County Road 65, which is already highly congested. So this was going to be on a sod farm, 155 acres, and it was going to have about 620 homes possibly. Also, the environment there is very unsuitable for that many homes and that kind of density. And it's close to some rivers and bone secure area. So I argued that case before the commission, and I defeated that as well.
So when you go forth to the commission and you're making these arguments, what is that process kind of like? How do you go before them? What kind of research goes into it, and how do you present it?
Well, I studied the staff report that's put out by the Planning and Zoning Department online, and I sometimes call them and ask questions as well if I need to. And then I prepare a PowerPoint presentation so that I can take that on a thumb drive to the meeting. And when I get there, I give that to the power that be that run the computer. And so when it's my time to speak, I usually get 5 minutes rather than 3, because I'm representing more than just myself. I'm representing part of a community. And so I do the PowerPoint presentation, and it has a lot of details in there about how compatible the project is to the area that's involved, how it affects the environment that's there, what problems exist, what the community feels like, is highly in high opposition, and And so I make the argument and I point out many things about the master plan if it's not in compliance, things like that that they have to pay attention to. And sometimes I win and sometimes I don't, but the majority of the time I've either won outright or have defeated it for the first go round, which is usually the higher density application. Then they'll come back later at a later time, the same project, and ask for a lower density. And sometimes that will be defeated or approved. But at the Planning Commission level is where those approvals and denials take place.
So, how are the current commissioners when you present? What has your experience been like, kind of working with the county? What would you like to see improved in terms of communication with them, or in terms of how to get information back and forth between the citizens and the county?
Well, there is a problem there to a degree. The staff report usually does not come out until about a week before the hearing, which is not a lot of time. So I had to go in prior to that and research and dig for more information in order to prepare a town hall and to start preparing my presentation. Um, I think the timeline should be lengthened between the time of application and the hearing date, and I think the information should be posted online sooner. That will give the public a lot more time to pay attention, to be notified that this is coming up, and to rally in opposition if they feel the need to do so. So that's one area that I think would be a big improvement. Another one is that the commission meetings are always, the rezoning meetings, that is, they have 2 meetings a month. Rezoning is always the third Tuesday in Fairhope at the Satellite Courthouse at 10 o'clock a.m. And a lot of people cannot get off work to attend those meetings. So I have a proposal, if I should win, that we change that to a more convenient time for the public to be able to attend and speak if they wish to. Even though I might get 5 minutes, other people have 3 minutes to speak if they sign up.
So, can we ask a little bit about your experience prior to getting involved as a citizen advocate? What were some of the things you did in your career?
Well, I started in working for my congressman in Washington, D.C., and then I moved from there to the Office of the Legislative Counsel, which is in the House of Representatives, where they draft the bills that go to the floor. I did that for a few years, and then I went on my own working for an independent court reporting agency, and I was a freelance court reporter for about 10 years in the D.C. metro area. After that, I moved first to Perdido Key, Florida, where my mother had retired, and I opened a business. Actually, I did two businesses when I lived in Northern Virginia also. I did one where I created a moisturizer for skin, and then I opened one that was called Best Buy Boxes, and that was boxes and moving supplies that I offered for free delivery. And when I got to Perdido Key, I tried the box business there, but that was a different situation and it didn't do as well. So I went back to school and I got my master groomer's license. And then I opened my own business called Bella Pooch Grooming and Boarding and Daycare Luxury Pet Hotel on Highway 98 in Pensacola. And I had that business for 8 years, and I loved it, but I finally was time to retire. And so I came out of retirement to do this for the planning and zoning matters that affect our entire community so much.
That's interesting. I didn't know any of that really about your background. I lived off 98 in Pensacola, and I'd been to Bella Pooch. I'd taken my dog there before. That's funny. I was like, oh, okay,
Oh,
that's
I
interesting.
didn't know. I didn't
Yeah,
remember. Wow.
small world.
Very.
The Washington D.C. experience, I think, is pretty unique. What did you do? Kind of role did you do there for your congressman?
Well, I started as an assistant there, in the front office. And then I became a clerk. And that entailed many different facets of answering constituent letters, emails, and conversing with them, conversing with the staff to come up with solutions or help the constituents in whatever way they might have needed. Also, we scheduled our congressman at the time was decided to run for the Senate. So he had a lot on his schedule besides his job as a congressman there representing our area. So it was a varied experience. I learned a lot and I really enjoyed it. But when he moved to the Senate, that's when I moved to the office of the Legislative Council because there I could use my court reporting skills.
Do you have any plans or ideas on how to put a slowdown or a stop to these data centers that are coming into the rural areas?
Well, that's a very, very difficult situation. The one in Stockton, of course, is the most well-known one that it just came up in maybe January or February. And I went to the town hall that they had about that because a lot of people were up in arms and still are. And we discovered then that the county commission really has no authority to deal with that because it's an unzoned area. So the legislature has taken that up. We will find out in the next few days before the session ends if that is going to be something that can be at least put a moratorium on that. I believe Senator Albritton has proposed a bill for that. And we are in great hopes that that can be done, giving the county more time to figure out how to handle the situation. It's not only just the property rights of the seller that are involved, but it's the property rights of the neighboring homes that are there. And property rights are very important. A person should be able to sell their property, and there should be no problem with that. However, that doesn't give them the right, in my opinion, to infringe upon their neighbor's privacy and their neighbor's quality of life. So it's a fine line, and it has to be balanced.
Absolutely. And what, besides high density subdivisions and solar farms, what are some other things that constituents come to you with as far as concerns?
Oh, yes, many things. A lot of drainage issues. And I get on the phone or on email and I contact the county highway department regarding a lot of drainage issues, or maybe somewhere they think that there should be a four-way stop where there isn't one. And that is something that I do regularly and have had great results in getting those matters taken care of in a timely manner. The county or the highway department has been very good and responsive. Also, not too long ago, a farmer had an issue with trespass by a developer that was coming in on next to his farmland, and that was going to cause some flooding, he was afraid, as well as they had put some debris on his property over his property line. So I got the county engineer and the planning director and one of the other code enforcement, I believe, people, kind of like an inspector, to come to the location. And we met there and they came up with some solutions for the issues, contacted the developer and gave them notice that they had to remedy these things. So that was very satisfying, and the farmers very happy, obviously. Other things are just the general population really has problems with congestion, traffic, the high density neighborhoods, the school capacity being overrun,
Yeah.
a lot of those types of issues. So I am proposing a new zoning category, which I have called RSF 1.5, which is in between the first and second two current categories. And that would be 2 homes per acre rather than the current second category, which is 3 homes per acre. And that would help a lot in giving the developers more choices as far as what they could choose to develop on the property they're proposing. And I've also promoted passing lanes and turning lanes on Highway 98. I don't believe it'll ever be 4-laned. It's already grown up too much, too close to the road.
Yeah.
But there are plenty of areas that could be improved.
That would be nice. Yeah.
It would. So those are some of my proposals. And I've also initiated and spearheaded Lillian Landmark District because a lot of our I guess our citizens that are in the area there are concerned that at some point in time in the future, another town might try to annex Lillian, and then there would no longer be a Lillian. So we got that started 2 years ago, and I did several town halls, got well over 700 signatures, and now that has been given to Congressman Alan Baker, sponsored that and took that before the legislature this session, but it got waylaid when the committee chairman, I guess the delegation chairman for our area, decided to form a committee and study the landmark districts because there's so many being asked for, even though we already have 7, I believe, in existence. And so now we don't know what's going to happen. Nothing will happen this year and maybe not next year. It eventually will go to a ballot. So that might be 2 years from now, if it even gets that far.
Mm, that's a shame.
I know, it's very sad. We're very upset about it. But that's the way that politics works sometimes.
So you being a Lillian citizen, what kind of brought you to Lillian? What do you like about living there? What made you choose Lillian?
Well, first we were living in our motorhome, and we didn't know a lot about planning and zoning. So we thought we could just buy a lot somewhere and put our motorhome there and live in it. We wanted to live in it for a few years, as well as travel. But we found out that wasn't possible unless you go and really have a large acreage in order to be able to be allowed to do that. So we found a place that allowed RV permanent living called Spanish Cove, one of the sections there. And so we bought a lot there and lived in there for 4.5 years. Then we loved the area, we loved the rural character of the entire area, and the fact that it feels safe and kind of old fashioned, I guess is the way to put it. Kind of remind you of the older times. And so then my mother-in-law needed to live with someone, and we decided we would move into a home and have a place for her with us. And we were so fortunate to find somewhere on 2.5 acres, which allowed us to also have 2 horses that are big pets. We don't ride them. But the country lifestyle is beautiful, and it's really important to very many people for their quality of life. And there's nothing wrong with being in subdivisions and being in other locations, but it's a choice that people make when they buy a property. And then they don't expect when they buy that it's going to be drastically changed in the very near future.
Sure.
So it's, again, another fine line about what is appropriate and where and when.
Yeah, I grew up on a 5-acre homestead in Mississippi, and not long after my parents bought the property, they built a gravel pit, like a 40-acre gravel pit right down the road. And then all of a sudden we had dump trucks at 3 a.m. going right by our house, and we lived on a dirt road. We thought we were away from everything, and
Yes.
it followed us. So
Yes.
I get that for sure.
Well, I don't know really the answer to that, but it could be researched, and I think there could be a lot more fairness to the current homeowners when these decisions are made. And I'm a member of the American Planning Association, so I reach out to them a lot of times for advice on things like that, and that's been very worthwhile, and I plan to continue that. So a lot of things a lot of other areas have already confronted, and there are solutions that people have come up with, and we don't have to reinvent the wheel.
What was the minimum acreage that you had to get to be able to have a permanent RV set up?
I'm not positive now that I remember, but I want to say something like 6 or 7.
Oh, wow.
Something like that along those lines. And then, of course, you have to put in your own electric and power and sewage. So it's buying that kind of acreage is not cheap.
Right, yeah.
So that wasn't a possibility for us.
What are some other civic groups and like community organizations that you're involved with? 'Cause I know you mentioned the American Planning Association.
Yes.
What are some other things that you're involved with?
I'm a 50-year member of PEO, which is a philanthropic educational organization, and we support women for continuing education. And we give scholarships, and we support a women's college in Missouri. I'm the chairperson for the Board of Adjustment for Baldwin County, South Baldwin, for the last 2 years. And I've been on that as a board member for 3 years. And then, let's see, trying to think what else. There's several.
I know you're in the Republican women groups.
Oh yes, yes, Baldwin County Republican women groups. I'm a member of the South Baldwin Republican Women and the Parliamentarian, and then I'm associate member in all of the other groups in this county. What else? I don't have my resume in front of me.
No, that's okay.
I can't think
You're
of
definitely
it.
in a lot. Like you are one of the people who I think you're everywhere all at once. I don't know how you do it.
Right. Common Sense Campaign. I'm a
Yeah.
member of that. I'm a member of what is now called Minority Republican Group, and it was called Minority GOP.
hmm
I'm a member of that. And I know there are several other things, but I can't remember them all right now.
In terms of issues that people bring forth to you, and we talked a lot about the zoning and development, what are some other issues in terms of, I guess, things that they're unhappy with that are just processes that could be improved? Because I know when my first, foray into navigating the county, I just saw a lot of process things that I would like to see improved in terms of transparency and accountability, putting things on the internet, the way they do bids, the way that their website was set up. There's a lot of little things like that that I saw that could be fixed. I don't know if anybody else had mentioned that stuff to you.
That is true, and I found that to be true myself. The website is not easy to navigate until you've done it several times, at least. When you go into the building department to get permits, you can't do that on a piece of paper anymore. You have to do it online. And that is a horrendous experience trying to get that straight. The first time we ever did that, I had to go to Commissioner Gruber right there on the spot that we were in the Foley satellite courthouse. And his office was right around the corner. Fortunately, he was there, and I went in there and just said, "This is unbelievable how unuser-friendly this program is to try and navigate." And so that was my first complaint to Commissioner Gruber. There are several things that could be done much more accurately and efficiently with posting things on the internet to keep people better informed. They do have a process where they put notifications in a paper of record, but a lot of those you have to subscribe to, then you have to read them. They're pretty boring. And those come out usually 2 weeks in advance and sometimes 4 weeks in advance. But you really have to be paying close attention and be on top of those to notice things that you might want to oppose. The processes that are involved in the county commission that I think should be, or could be improved, I should say, are the way that they go about doing rezoning first and then following up later with subdivisions. Because a question I need to ask that keep thinking of and I haven't done it yet is, if you rezone a property and then they fail in the subdivision process, well, then what about the property? It's already rezoned for no good reason. So I think they should implement where they go, if you don't get approval to build what you were asking to build in a certain amount of time, maybe be it a year, then the property should revert back to the original zoning, because it doesn't make sense. It seems a little backwards to me. Mm-hmm. Actually, quite backwards. But since I'm not in that position, there may be good reason for it that I'm not aware of. But that's something that should definitely be looked at, in my opinion. And the planning and zoning department does a really good job. I think sometimes, though, their timelines, again, are too short. I think they don't get enough time between the time the application comes in and the time that they're required to have a hearing, to do all of the research that could be done. And there should be things added to the evaluation process so that they do a growth score. And I think that they should add about probably a half a dozen more items to that so that the evaluation is more thorough.
What do you think sets you apart from your opponents in this race? There's 3 of you. I think you're all bring something different to the table. And I've enjoyed listening to you guys debate. I feel like your race is a lot more active within the 3 of you really do show up to everything and kind of communicate. Other races, maybe not so active between the candidates.
That's true, too. Yes.
So why should people vote for you over the other 2 opponents in the race?
Well, the situation being what it is with what I call overdevelopment, not just development, but overdevelopment of the county, and the speed that it's going at over the last, well, at least 4 years, if not longer, that I have the experience because of how I got involved, and the planning and zoning to me is one of the most important part of the job. Even the commissioners have stated that it is the hardest part of what they have to do. They have many other functions. They fund the sheriff department. They do a lot of funding for many organizations and a lot of emergency services. They are involved in taxes. I don't know the details about how they go about that. But I think that my experience, number one, going to so many commission meetings, I don't think my opponents have gone to very many at all, has familiarized me with the process to a large degree and a detailed degree. I know all of the people in the planning and zoning department and the county administration, and I know who to call or contact when there are issues. And the same way with Alabama Department of Transportation, when I work on these local issues, I got a traffic light coming at County Road 91 and 98. I had to contact AlDOT to get that done. And then Commissioner Gruber had to follow up on that with funding paid part by the county and part by the state. And that has taken 2 years. So these things don't happen fast. But at least it got approved and funded. So that's a big win. And that was needed for a very long time. I think that experience, along with my business experience, I understand economics. My Capitol Hill experience, I understand the legislative process, gives me a better grasp of what that job entails.
You mentioned something before about at one of the debates, you quoted Ross Perot.
I did, yes.
About, go ahead and
yes.
you can recant that quote or,
Yes,
repeat it.
To quote the one and only Ross Perot, who I really did like, he said, "I'm not interested in what you did 10 years ago. What have you done lately?" So I think that is a brilliant statement because really, at least it applies to me because I have done so much lately in the last 4 years. I write a newspaper column for the Lillian newspaper called Keepin It Country, and that is to keep the citizens informed and engaged since the transparency is not that forthcoming from the county itself. I've had 7 town halls. I initiated the Lillian Landmark District. I'm continuously advocating for anyone who needs it in any of these municipalities or county areas. I have, in the last 6 months, I've advocated for Foley, Alberta, Lillian, Stapleton, Stockton, Bon Secours, Fort Morgan. At least I think it's 7 or 8. And for whatever their local issues might be, or for the planning and zoning and the development. So I think that what I've done lately is extremely important to this job, as being able to walk in to the job and not have a long learning curve, which they say is an issue.
Yeah.
To be a commissioner, it's not the easiest job in the world. It's not as straightforward as some jobs, and there's no prior training. So I think that experience sets me apart.
Well, tell everyone where they can find more information and where they can follow you, donate, and learn more.
Well, thank you very much. Yes, my website is letskeepitcountry.com. And my phone number is 251-216-2012. And I answer my phone unless it says potential spam. And then otherwise you could leave a message if that happens to be the case, and I will return your call. I also have presence on Facebook, both Tracey Gambill as well as Let's Keep It Country. And then I post regularly on other sites like X and Reddit, a few of those types. And Nextdoor is a very good one. The Nextdoor app has been very beneficial in getting the word out about many things that are coming up in any area of the county. So all of those together is a fairly good representation of what I work on. And I post my newspaper column, for instance, and other things like that, as well as videos like this one. And some things that I've had recorded during some of our candidate forums.
All right. Well, the primary election for Baldwin County is May 19th. Remember that date. It is right around the corner. It's about less than 50 days, right? Like 48 days or something away from when we're filming this. So
It
on
is.
May 19th, cast your vote in the primary. If you want to learn more, let's keep it country.com. Miss Tracey Gambill.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.